Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome you all to the today's Saturday Summit on Breaking Boundaries, the interdisciplinary future of actual science. Today, we are here to explore how the actual field is expanding into new and exciting domains. So, let's begin with a conversation about how our profession is evolving beyond numbers and models into broader and impactful roles. Today, we have our esteemed speakers, Ms. Nistha Ranjan, Mr. Prabhakar Veer, and Mr. Ajay Shekar, who will guide us through this conversation. So, without any further delay, I would request Mr. Prabhakar Veer to please begin with the session.
Sure. Thank you, Riddhi, for this brief one. And in fact, guys, this is Saturday weekend. I would like to keep it informal. If you have any questions, you can keep chatting and then putting it on the Q&A board, or if you want to raise hands, you can definitely. We had certain aspects in terms of when we are talking about that, how the actuaries can be used, or maybe how they can apply their skills in different other areas. But maybe Ajay will take that portion. I will start with the uses of actuaries, or maybe the application that we have in the field of governance and regulations. It's a catch 22 situations or a rat and mouse game that we typically see even in IT or any other areas. A hacker hacks a computer, then a developer provides the solutions. Again, hacker goes and develop those issues where they can find some loopholes. Almost the same thing happens even in the case of regulations or governance. If you think about, think about people, we try to frame a policy, we try to frame a guidelines, and then there are systems which first implements, and after the implementation there are players who try to find out a loophole or how to maximize their gains, and in an ethical way. If I'm saying maximize the gains in an ethical way, that is what they do. And then again there is a cycle starts for refining the regulations and so on. So if you think about how even insurance industry has grown from solvency 1 to solvency 2 on, and similarly on the IFRS 4, IFRS 9, IFRS 17, that's the same cycle. Now, what's the scope as of today? Why I'm talking about that, why this particular field is gaining more and more importance? One, because the risk is growing, the technology is growing, the areas are growing. Initially, there are few traditional sectors to work, but today I don't know, it's almost innumerable sector that we work upon. And if you are working upon so many sectors, then definitely first is that identify what and how it needs to be regulated. One. Second, how we can implement and educate people. Third, once the implementation has happened, then how to track. All these areas is where you can play a significant role, and we can play a significant role. And reason being that we are the one who don't only understand the uh, biostatistics part of it. This means populations, how the population is growing, a kind of a group or cohort, whatever you say. We also understand macro and microeconomics segments. We also understand how finances are working. Thankful, I have been always thankful to the people who have developed this curriculum, because then it gives you a wider applications to think about it. So we also understand finance, and by virtue of different climate changes or roles or the different interactions with the industry, we have got more and more views in terms of how we can implement it or how we can frame it. What typical roles we can play? One, to identify where the regulations are not there. Second, which all people are getting impacted. Third, do a modeling part, it how we model, how do we correlate, how do we identify interactions, and then how we finally explain the results. Number four is basically tracking. And number five, again, once the tracking has happened, then again to restart the cycle. So that's the first key one. We can also think about that regulation alone is not sufficient. If we talk about governance, for example, think of any of the recent policies which has come into place. You might have heard about the Ayushman Bharat. The role was there for actuaries to play, and we played a role, and definitely in any future schemes we will be playing. Think about the employment generation schemes. There also, how many people would require the employment, what kind of employment, how, if one sector goes up, what will be the impact on second sector, whether those sectors are complementary or whether those sectors are reciprocal. Those information can also be one. Even as simple as smart city project, there also there was an application of Actuaries, because then they identified which city to grow, where to grow, what kind of segments are a particular city is having, and so on. So that's the impact, and that's the new role where actuaries can play more and more, uh, more and more roles. So, of course, as we go deep, we will pick up more examples for your understanding and what we are trying to say. But as we say, we are talking about the interdisciplinary part of it. Maybe Nishtha, there is definitely a role of academicians in framing different regulations, in making the people more aware and bringing the educated youth in the realm of actuarial and the governance. So maybe I would just pass it on to you to hear your views on interdisciplinary approach of actuaries.
Thank you, Prabhakar. Yes, as we are specifically talking about the interdisciplinary future of actuarial science, and you people we already know that actuarial science is an amalgamation of mathematics, statistics, economics, accounts, and data analytics. So, if it is an amalgamation of all these five subjects, so whosoever is a mathematics can also do actuarial science, whosoever is a statistics can also do actuarial science, and simultaneously there is a big question upon this also that can actuaries be data analytics and vice versa thing is going on. So the thing is that all these skills are required whenever we are doing any of the work. Like you are doing any of the prediction, you need to have what is going on currently, what is there on the current accounts, what are the economic conditions of the company, what are to analyze the trends, you need to know the statistics, and you to handle the big data, you need to know the data analysis. So now NEP 2020 is focusing upon the learning outcome based, and it is not linked to the marks or the degree that you would be getting, but it is playing an emphasis on the multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary education system. And because of this, if we talk specifically about actuarial science, then all those students who are pursuing mathematics as their career, maybe in their UG or in PG, they would be studying about few or more the content that is being taught even in the actuarial studies, which is required in your actuarial career. So I feel that these universities now, universities or the autonomous bodies, or basically the B schools that we are having, where everywhere the statistics, mathematics is being taught, what they can do is they can do the curriculum mapping with respect to the syllabus that the actuarial science has, and they can get an exemption from these Institute of Actuaries of India and other relevant actuarial bodies. Now that will play a very, very big role. Ultimately, the major role, the major thing that students want is placement, that they should be having good placement, good salary package when they are getting placed. Now, being into this interdisciplinary approach, when you would be having, you would be knowing about mathematics core field also, and you would be knowing the risk assessment also, you would be knowing the modeling part also of the actuarial science, then it will play, it will add an edge in your placement. More companies will be coming up. And since still we feel that most of the people actuarial science is not being known to them, so that will add value. You have a lot of uh, I mean, there are so many industries which could be which are ready to take actuarial science, but the only thing is people relate actuarial science only with insurance. So this gap needs to be bridged out, and this can be bridged when even in the education sector, if we introduce that, yes, this predictions the that the statistics people do, they can uh, furthermore diverse into other fields also. So like we can have uh, this actuarial science being put up into mathematics, into e-commerce, into, as what Prabhakar has said, into the various regulations of the and the things that are being put up in the Ayushman Bharat. So that's how the things can be incorporated into the universities through exemptions, and that will actually add value and also sufficing to the new education policy, which has been focusing upon the interdisciplinary education. So maybe now, Ajay, I would like your inputs also upon this.
Yeah, thank you, Nishta. So, just to add to what Prabhakar and Nistha have been saying, it's sort of critical that we understand the context around actuaries in wider fields. And I can relate to it because throughout my life, I've kind of been what would traditionally be considered as wider fields. So, if you look at the evolution of the actuarial profession in India, in the mid 2000s, there was an acute scarcity of actuaries. And the immediate objective of framing the IAI charter and IAI coming into as a statutory body was to make sure this acute scarcity was sort of addressed. And the immediate need in of the actuarial skill set was in the insurance sector. So, in a broad case, IAI had to focus first upon meeting the needs of the insurance sector and eventually diversifying into other fields. So the context of discussion did not even exist because there were so many opportunities right within the sector. If you look at the situation right now, um, it's moved from a case of acute scarcity of actuarial talent to somewhat of a shortage of fellowship skills. And in a few years, I do not know when, but we aren't going to have significantly exponential jobs in insurance. And we also have a bright young set of people who are multidisciplinary in their approach, who can start contributing to other areas. So, effectively, when somebody comes and asks me about the actuarial syllabus, and they ask me to specify what what do you study, and my immediate answer would often be like sort of everything. The syllabus itself covers mathematics, statistics, analytics, programming, finance divided into corporate finance, as well as quantitative finance. And so, one of the other aspects of actuarial science is also the mental aspects, right? You learn a lot of technique. You are a master of multiple disciplines, not just one. And it's not just you need to be able to understand one or two subjects from a very high end level. You need to be able to go into depth and understand each topic so you can contribute and add value. So the mental aspect of things is basically the amount of discipline that goes into the actuarial fellowship qualification, the sort of disappointments that you have to deal with. And when I say disappointments, I'm sure everybody's been through in our progress towards the fellowship. I would say maybe out of the 700 fellows who are currently at IAI, there would be maybe, I mean, this is all in the ballpark, 20, 25 fellows who never failed an exam. So how do you recover from the disappointment of not actually having to pass an exam? And how do you plan a marathon that lasts for 5 years, approach this systematically step by step, and arrive at the final solution? So, and if we compare the actuarial profession to some, I'm not going to name the professions, but certain other professions that have contributed a lot to the wider fields, I would say that we are far more well placed because, along with the technical and the mental aspects of things, you have communication as part of the syllabus as well. So it is not necessarily sufficient if you arrive at a technical problem to a solution. You should be able to frame it in a way where you understand the requirements of the stakeholders, where you understand the regulation that is surrounding you, as well as how do you communicate this to a non-technical audience who are basically board members of the company who are key decision makers, right, or stakeholders of the company. And I'm sure a lot of people have come back in the past and said, "Oh, your CP3 is just English," and I can guarantee you, anybody who said CP3 is just English is going to fail their paper. It's far more than that. And CP3 itself is going to be revamped in the next year or two, from my understanding. So, and of course, just like with any expansion, like we've initially, it was primarily restricted towards insurance, and over the last 10, 15 years, we've had people moving out of insurance, actuaries, fellow actuaries moving out of insurance into more specialized, wider fields such as banking, etc., which I'll be talking about later. So, what are the primary challenges in doing so, right? And having spoken with a number of actuaries who work in the non-traditional fields, the immediate issue is that the culture does not exist. because in what has happened over the last maybe 20, 30 years is the actuarial profession has become sort of so ingrained with life general insurance and pensions that you have companies offering study support, um, employment progressions based upon paper clearance, which is not going to exist in the wider field. Right? You're going to be judged for your skill and your contribution, and not for the amount of papers that you pass. At least not in the initial stages till the culture develops. And you're also having to compete with other professions, for example, CA or CFA, FRM, CWA in the specific fields, where they already have a head start towards you. And but if you actually think of it, um, the as I said, the amount of skill set that the actuarial syllabus and the profession forces you to gain is going to put you at such an advantage to all the other professions combined that I do not see this challenge as a major obstacle. So I'll pass it on to Prabhakar to discuss some of the specifics of the wider fields, especially the ESG
Sure.
aspects.
Thank you, Ajay. And in fact, now, as in when we are going more deep, I also realize that most of you will be more interested to know how to create a career which is not in insurance, and also it is very, very near to your core interest. So I will give you a few examples, but before doing that, I want to close two arguments which I was talking or maybe thinking about when we were talking about the regulations and governance. The first one, again, from the employment perspective. Across the geographies, regulators are hiring now more and more actuaries, not only to regulate their banking and insurance sectors, but even other sectors. So what does that mean? If you are interested, if your core or first interest lies in music, try to think that how and where you can link music plus actuarial. If your core interest is in drama, if your core interest in say mining, if your core interest is to know, how uh, a particular textile industry is going. So everywhere for the regulations, again, regulators across the countries are hiring more and more people. Second is that if you think about the traditional sector itself, we had a good amount of linkage between US and UK. So most of the multinational companies were reporting numbers into US and UK. And that's why you see even today, many of us have a good amount of understanding of regulations of US and UK. But have you ever thought that these companies are also having business in China? They're also having business in China, South Korea. They're also having business in say Middle East. The easiest way to make your career fast is to focus on one geography where people have not read through. Go and see what kind of regulations are there in China and become the first expert in India who can relate a multinational company who is say based out of Europe and they have a business in China. Clear advantage. Similarly, there are many companies who may have business in particular area. Try to link the two geographies regulations and become the first expert. Another area which many of young people are very interested in, AI and ML. And all of you know, as of now, most of the regulators are clueless. Simply, they have told that we are allowing the AI to be used in explanation of the numbers, but they have not allowed AI in the creation of reports and so on, because they are still developing some of the aspects of the regulations on the AI and ML side. So if you are more interested in the technology, in programming, then definitely think that this is also one career where you can right now build an advantage for yourself. Just think, how can you bring transparency when you are thinking about the AI model? Because of course, many of the models are unsupervised. Go to the regulator or go to any organization, they would like to know what is behind that. They hate black boxes. Can you understand those model and bring transparency? If you are the one who can do that, probably you will always get a first hand and for first opportunity for the job. Transparency and explainability is the first one. Bias detection is another one, because in many scenarios when we use the data, we use data for a specific geography and we also bring in data from other geographies to see what is happening there. But the moment we bring data from other geography, for example, right now, what kind of say cyber attacks is happening in say US and UK, and I'm bringing that experience to India to draft a regulation in this case, definitely I'm bringing the bias from the data of the US. How will you detect the bias and how will you mitigate it? What kind of governance and privacy policy that you need to follow, because every geography has other their own nuances to manage. Of course, model validation is monitoring is another area. So if you are interested in the space of AI and ML, think on those lines, become the first one to touch these areas, and that will be your core differentiator for your own career going forward. So that was the few points which I wanted to close from the last discussion. But thanks, Ajay, for bringing the ESG part of it. ESG is again one area where which is not very clear right now to many people. And if I say ESG, that stands for environmental, social, and governance. Now, so the very first role that actuaries can play in this area to increase more and more visibility, increase more and more knowledge about it and understanding of it. Why it is gaining importance and why it is becoming more and more, say, critical for any of the companies. And I will give you some examples to say that how it was critical and why. So that's the first attempt. If you can think about it. Second is that what kind of environmental and social and governance risk is posed to the BFSI sector, which is our mother industry or mother sector. Third, what could be the benefit of the ESGs in incorporating their strategy? And the fourth part is will be that strategies and initiatives taken by the different finance professionals, how to integrate for the risk framework. Now I will give you a couple of examples. Many of you would have known about 2008, the prime subprime lending and the market meltdown across the globe. Lehman Brothers, they fall down, and that's how it started. But how any of you thought that if the governance at that point of time would have asked certain aspects from Lehman Brother and they were supposed to report it out to the market, probably that would not have happened. So that's the risk I'm talking about in when I'm talking about governance. Governance not only the different in the different companies, and different companies also now have no other choice to but strengthen their governance. Reason being, there's nobody knows as of now that what kind of risk is coming from a different segment. All of you would have read a recent argument or maybe recent news article that electromagnets which is coming from China will impact auto industry in India. Now think of the actuary who already thought about it, and they thought, okay, if this is one segment which will our impact auto industry, and just think that most of the industry will also impact the ancillary auto industry. Many of the smaller SMEs, banks who gives loan to SMEs, because large corporates still will have fundings for the longer duration, but SMEs will not have funds to sustain for a longer durations. So it also brings the risk to the banking sector, and once banks are impacted, then there are many subsequent sectors which will get impacted. So whether when these small articles flow in, if as an actuary you can identify certain risk and educate the industry, that will be the best win for you and for the industry overall. Another aspect which I was talking about, in many geographies now coal mining has stopped. So many insurance companies and especially the pension funds and everything one had were heavily invested in the industry which was in mining. Now nobody saw that tomorrow this will become a sector which will be banned or so, what kind of impact it will bring and so on. So the environmental factor, I gave an example, the governance factor I give an example. Now in terms of societal, there are certain, I don't know if there's a new toy which is coming a race across the globe. I forgot the name. It's something called Lububu, right? Many places they have created a impression that this is, if this is not say acquired by a kid, they are missing out. So similar, what kind of impact of those kind of a thing will happen on the society if the kids are having more and more impacted by fear of missing out, right? And this is one segment which you can exploit, you can study and make use in different industries so that you can get your job first and also secure the industry. So that's the aspect of economical, societal and governance factor that I was talking about. But I don't want to take all the time. I see some of the questions which is coming now. Riddhi, how are we taking? Are we asking the questions now or towards the end?
We'll be asking at the end.
Okay, so then in that case, uh, maybe what I can also think about that, as an academician, Nistha, how is your view in terms of the ESG? Is there a approach which can be included in the in the curriculum? I'm not at all always saying syllabus, but curriculum as well, because these are the areas which generates the interest in people. In when we were in college, there were many people who were interested in mock UN. There were many people who were interested in debates. How we can incorporate these areas so that our young generation can think more and more about it, and then make it as a career of their choice in the field that they like and the technologies they learn being an actuary.
Thank you, Prabhakar. Now, when we talk about this ESG, there are many courses that that the universities, colleges are offering, which are namely environmental education, sustainability, and they are being told the students are being asked to elect these subjects as per the skills that they want to inherit. Now, like NEP has given the opportunity to the students to select the courses of their own choice. They can select one of the core course and then also opt for the elective course. Now, these elective courses are introduced so as to develop the skill set that you were talking about. Now, the skill set that the student, maybe an engineering student would like to develop the skill related to painting, singing, so they can opt for those subjects. So simultaneously now, since ESG is on a big boom, so and there is a lot of awareness, so environmental education and sustainability courses have been introduced at the college at the college level in the higher educational institution, so that students can be equipped with the right talent and the right skills. Now, when I am talking about this interdisciplinary, I would also like to provide an example where even in the e-commerce industry, in the retail part, when you you most of the students would have seen that actuaries are working into Uber, they're working into Walmart, Amazon, Google, and so on and so forth. So what is their actual their role over there, and how are they handling, how is their expertise is involved in making making the industry a better place, in helping the whole profession. So when we talk about the e-commerce industry, we see that Actuarial are using survival model, Markov chains, predictive analytics. So what is there in e-commerce is the prediction. What prediction that we are talking about is how long the customer is going to stay, how much they are going to spend, then the risk associated with the logistics, and so on and so forth. So being if there is a traditional analyst, then you would be talking about the trends. You would be talking about the historical trends, averages, and so on. But when we are talking about the actuarial profession, they come um, with the skill set of quantifying. So quantifying the tail risk and the rare events, then integrating the demand forecasting with the cost modeling. Then they are majorly or basically rigorously trained in the stochastic processes for pricing, forecasting, and risk modeling. So when you are doing the Monte Carlo simulations multiple times, you may get the worst case scenarios for which you need to take care. Now, there could be, being into the e-commerce or being into any of the industry, there are multiple things, and actually in so much risk is involved that we tend to miss out the deadline. Now the call is upon the student that they should be handling not one at a time, but they need to figure out which one is at priority. If the risk is higher for one of the project, then that should be handled first, and simultaneously the priority can be put up for the rest of the risk scenarios. So, uh, as per me, I feel that actuaries bring a unique blend of qualitative, statistical, and risk management skills in any of the stream wherever they go, be it e-commerce or be it into ESG that Prabhakar has already told. And because they are equipped with this advanced statistical modeling, risk quantification and management, scenario analysis and stress testing, optimization, and so on and so forth. So, and moreover, if when I talk, if you would have seen that Frank was the Google first actuary who had joined in 2012, and then in 2014 he switched to Uber. So just the thing that you need, that as students or when you are moving into the non-traditional areas, that you need to keep in mind is that even Ajay has also mentioned this, that you need to communicate as per what the industry says. If you would be using your actuarial terminologies, they might not be easily understood. So it is better that you yourself change and talk with regard to what industry you would be entering into. So, and most of the companies are also going into self insurance. So that actually adds on work of the actuarial people, where they can quickly pick up into these non-traditional jobs. And one more problem is that exam support for these non-traditional in these non-traditional jobs is not at all given. So you need to be prepared and for all of this, and prepare your exams accordingly. So maybe now we can have some more insights from Ajay regarding the banking sector.
Yep. So if you look at the transferability of actuarial skills, the easiest low-hanging fruit is banking. I mean, and banking, by banking, I mean, it's a big industry, of course. Like when you talk about banking, you're talking about the back end, which is settlement, accounting, audit, the mid end, which is risk management, quantitative modeling, Basel regulations, etc. And then the front end, which is customer management. So I'm specifically focusing on the mid end of banking, which is risk management, Basel compliance, and risk modeling within for capital calculations. So um, Basel norms basically asks the banks to quantify their amount of credit risk, the liquidity risk, and the operational risk. And you also have to quantify your market risk. These are exactly the sort of work an investment actuary would be doing in an insurance company. So if you look at the transferability of skills for mid-end banking, it's 1:1. And then you have non-banking financial institutions, right? So what are these non-banking financial institutions? So let's start with hedge funds or trading firms. So you have investment analysis, uh, understanding of the markets, framing an investment strategy based on your liability models, and taking care of the personal finances of individuals who invest in the NBFC or in the hedge fund, basically. And this is exactly within the purview of an investment actuary as well. Additional to this, you have other non-banking, non-deposit taking financial institutions. I worked in one actually in Ford for about 6 years. And if you look at what Ford Credit did, it basically lended money to people who wanted to buy Ford cars. And what activities were happening at Ford? Pricing of the loans to make sure they got it right and they were profitable. Classification of risk at the time of giving of the loans, which is basically making sure the probability of payment is calculated appropriately. And this is again done using machine learning. Estimation of default risk, calculating of residual value of the vehicles. Basically, if you lease a vehicle out right now, what is the value going to be 5 years down the line? This is and additionally, because it was also part of a larger NBFC, they were also subject to Basel regulations, which again got covered into banking, operational risk modeling, credit risk modeling, market risk modeling. And then you had to estimate the correlation risk of all these portfolios combined because you lent it for multiple groups. And then there was a securitization aspect involved. You have all these loans that you've given out. You need to finance these loans somehow, but you can't take a deposit. So how do you kind of do it? So you have to structure the securitization deal. You have to go to the market, market your assets, basically a waterfall strategy, and convince work with regulators to make sure that you're structuring the risk appropriately. And this is just one aspect of automotive loan. And then you have so many other sectors which are, for example, credit card loans, housing property loans. Then you have gold loans, right? The skill set is exactly the same. We have people, actuaries, qualified actuaries working in all these institutions already. And if you look at some of the more developed markets I'm not saying developed markets in insurance as such, but developed markets in the actuarial space where they have more actuaries. You have the American market where actuaries are actively hired in these roles. Then the UK market where actuaries are actually, drastically hired in these roles. And then it's only a matter of time before this sort of spills onto the Indian market. So if you want to look at a career perspective, NBFC is a great place. Um, and of course, there's predictive analytics in if you look at the non-banking space, because analytics as an industry has boomed in the last 15 years, right? Everyone suddenly is a data scientist, and like you have certifications being spelled out everywhere. Everybody gets a data science certificate. So, but do they really have the skills? They 99.99% of the data analysts that I see possess very little skills, right? Because they're not formally educated in the field systematically. Of course, there is still that 0.1% or so who are from premier institutions who know exactly what they are doing. And by premier institutions, I would say maybe ISI, IIMs, or tier one institutions in MBA. And maybe even to an extent, um, CFAs. Uh, but they don't exactly deal with analytics, which is different. But still, um, and what do they do? Supply chain optimization, where operational research skills are involved. It's competing directly with statisticians. And again, when I say statisticians, like you leave out the top maybe 50 or 200 statisticians who qualify each year. Anybody who finishes the actuarial paper is basically going to be there, right at the top, to be able to compete with who are we competing with in these industries, right? Like it's going to be master's degrees in statistics or master's degrees in economics of people who pass out. And are they going to have the same sort of rigor, both technically as mentally as actuaries? I don't think so. So, and then you have product pricing, model building for even in the manufacturing sector, for example. What about predictive maintenance? Like you have crores of rupees, even in India, being invested in machinery. And if there is a downtime in any of these machineries, it wreaks havoc in the whole system. So predictive maintenance is based upon survival models. And if you talk about the transferability of skills, this is another area that is actually drastically opening up. And if you look at us as an institute, as such, like I said, the first objective was to make sure that we kind of address the acute scarcity of skill sets in the actuarial space. Like we needed actuaries to fill in insurance roles. But now that, like I said, that scarcity has moved out to shortage, we're trying to look out at a much larger role for students to be a part of and actuaries to be a part of. And as we expand, the institute itself has recognized that like only if we start right now, things are going to start coming into place a year or 2 or 3 down the line. And we've set up outreach programs. Prabhakar and I are part of the job placement committee. We have brand image management. There are plans to have corporate training certifications to increase brand awareness, which is handled by the education committee. And there are going to be several training sessions that are going to be given to students in AI, some of the areas which Prabhakar rightly discussed about, AI, machine learning, and even some of the areas which Nistha and Prabhakar like jointly said, like ESG and regulations. And also, there's going to be this huge boom of academic actuaries because at some point, I don't know when, but at some point, there is an interest to move away from the acted UK syllabus into India having its own syllabus. Is that feasible in the next year? No. But is there an interest from the institute? Like, absolutely. So, and when that happens, if there are academic actuaries who are full-time doing syllabus maintenance and examination, that is another area for career path which somebody can look into. So I'll pass it on to Prabhakar. If
Yeah, thanks for those interesting insights. And in fact, sometimes Ajay and Nistha, I get amazed by the quality or the ideas that this new generation comes. And I will give you example of a actual student. The person was trying to have braces, and he asked the question to the doctor that, doctor, how long it will take for me to have this braces taken away, or have my teeth in a proper shape. Doctor said that, it will take 6 or 7, 8 months. But just think about this person, what he did. He pursued with the doctor. He convinced him that can he give the data of all his patients and the x-rays. He built a model saying that, this is the x-rays at this month of time. After 1 month, this was the progress, this kind of patients, this gender, age, and everything. And he predicted his own recovery time. That's the idea and the power that this new generation brings and application. And that is what I always try to invite you people to think and solve this problem. And just think, if this kind of analysis can be done in any of the areas, like recovery from one patient to another, or maybe anything, it's amazing thing to have. Another thing which I would like you people to highlight, because we, as the closing point, what Ajay was making in terms of actual job placements, we get multiple resumes, but we don't get the uniqueness of those resumes. Especially companies who are working in multiple geographies, they would also look for where have you applied your skills. I see everywhere R, Python, Excel, they write. Even if you write that, I created a model in my college or school using R, and this was the objective, I would get to know that what have you done there. So just think about how you represent your case. Many of you have a good language skills. Some of you are having German, some of you are having French. If you can also highlight that. So companies who are working in German market, who are working in Italian market, will get first eye in your resume. So just try to bring out the uniqueness, and just and what kind of applications you have used it. The way I just give an example that how one particular student use it. Now, towards the my last section was in terms of the sports. This is again an interest area for many of us, and I keep focusing on this area because the field that you are more interested in, you can dream a lot. The moment you dream a lot, you apply a lot. The moment you apply a lot, at least 10% in cases you will find a solution. So first think, what is your core choice, what is your hobby, then apply the actual skill set, and I can guarantee you will that you will be either the pioneer in that field, or you will be in the top 10% percentile of that particular field. Especially now, just think of an opportunity. Somebody likes Virat Kohli. Can he or she dream that, can I get a chance to evaluate the contract negotiation which Virat Kohli is having with say, a sports management company? Who is going to do that? And trust me, it's the actuarial team who is currently doing that. So what they do, they evaluate the player, they analyze the player's performance data, what kind of injuries that they had. And we also, when we read, right, we read the transition probability from one stage to another. So if a person is, say, stage B at injury, whether what is the probability of recovering and what's the probability of further aggravating, who can do that better than us? So evaluate the injury history, what's the market trend, to determine the player's fair market value. Again, when it comes to market value, the last part of skill, then we were talking about that we are more trained to have the financial repercussions or financial KPIs to assess that. So that's one of the areas which is very, very heavily being done by the actuaries as of now in all these sports field in India or outside. You will be surprised to know this McLaren, the sports, the Formula One racing that we hear. In their team, there are almost 100 actuaries who real time do the performance analysis of the cars, and what kind of changes they are making in the car. Another fact which intrigued me, that at the beginning of the season, if say suppose a Formula One team has come with a design of a car, within by the end of the season, whatever design they started with, it completely changes to 100%. So now with each every change that a particular one person makes or recommends, who will analyze it? It's this team of actuaries who are currently analyzing it. So this performance improvement of not only the player, but wherever the machines are being used in the sports, and doing any kind of data analysis is there, our area where we are doing it very, very well. Risk assessment and mitigation. So that's the analysis that we were talking about, especially in the field, but there is definitely other risk as well. All these sporting events typically get insured, right? You heard about the Olympic getting insured, and then some of the large insurer got hit because of the COVID, it got changed, and the dates were pushed. So that's another area. Even IPL gets the insurance of it. So they don't rely only on the insurance company to say the premium. They cross validate it, and they use actuaries to do that. Now, many of the players, when they get retired, there is another stream which is coming up very, very prominently, if not in India, then abroad, the workers' compensation and pension management for these retiring players. So that's another area if you are interested, and you have some heroes like Roger Federer who are not active in the game, but if you want to plan and devise a plan for that particular person, do it, and reach out to them. Of course, then data-led decision making, product development, and financial modeling for different sports, different strategies is another area where you can think of. So we'll pause here just to see if my fellow colleagues, like if Ajay, if you have any reaction points, or Nistha, if you have any questions in terms of what we can do more in sports, I will be glad to pick up, or otherwise we can open it for the
Yeah,
audience.
I think in the interest of time, we should open it for Q&A because we're already 45 minutes in. Uh, yeah, Preeti, can we open it for Q&A? I'm not able to read the questions. If or if somebody wants to raise their hand.
I would like to add a few things. Like most of this generation, that when I come across in doing the research projects with the students, the people say that, ma'am, we are not having that much of data. Availability of the data is a major issue when you come up with these non-traditional areas. Now, adding to this, I would say that even if there is very less data, no data, or very thin amount of data, I would suggest that make the data from somewhere. You need to you need to have the agencies, you need to hire them, or you need to yourself go and check. There would be data, it is just that it is not being tracked, it is not being shared to you, so you need to make extra efforts in knowing that particular data. And when you know that some amount of data, you may create further more based on some assumptions. Now these assumptions should be properly documented, because these assumptions would lay how critically you would be evaluating that particular project, and how these assumptions would be critically impacting that particular thing. So that is one point. I see one of the hand raised. So can we have the question?
Gautam, thank you for your input today.
Sorry, Gautam, your voice is inaudible. It's breaking up.
Am I audible?
No, you're not.
Just a minute, just a minute. Let me just insert my headphones. Is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. So, Gautam, this side, I'm a qualified CA, and I work in an MNC bank as a CA only in the taxation department. However, I am quite moved by this actuarial curriculum and all the knowledge. So, I was hoping that if you can shed some light how an actuary and a CA in an MNC bank can work as an economist or in the ALCM department or FP&A. These three were I was evaluating in a few weeks. So if you can just guide me over this.
Sorry, can you repeat the last bit? Which three areas?
He's talking
and
about
FP&A.
Your voice just broke.
So FP&A, I understood, Gautam, and you are saying ALM, asset
Yes,
liability
yes,
modeling. Okay.
yes.
Ajay, you want to take or should I? I have one response definitely here.
Go ahead. Maybe
Okay.
I'll just have a
So
point to add
of
on the.
course, there is very, very close linkage in these two areas, Gautam. And there are many actuaries working on this field. As we speak, my company WNS is definitely looking for a FP&A actuary who has experience in the US market. So if after this IFRS 17 and also even earlier, the planning and budgeting team, what we have realized over the years, that there is almost 20 to 25% overlap in what a actually does and what the FP&A team asks for in terms of at the beginning of the year when they are planning the budgets and at the end of the year and also throughout the monitoring process. So if 25% overlap is there, then definitely the skill that you are bringing, because you are a CA as well as actually, it's a very apt combinations, and there are many companies who look for such skills, look for especially companies who have where the group means these kind of rule occurs more in the group entities, the headquarters, rather than the regional areas. But
Mhm.
almost 20-25% of the overlap is there. In terms of the ALM, again, that area, especially think about if thinking about if you have done the investment in certain geographies and certain companies, how much that company is leveraged is again one area where CA skill becomes very, very important for us. And in terms of ALM, the overlap would be almost in the range of 40%. So both the areas, I think that you are already aware of. That's why you have asked this question. But thanks for this opportunity, because through this opportunity, I'm telling other people that if you have these two skills, almost 25% of roles is open for FP&A, and almost 40% of the role in ALM for not only the insurance sector but other sector as well is open for these skills.
Yeah. Recently, yes. So sorry. So go on, second.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I was recently going through the Indian market wherein the CA plus actually has been hired for FP&A or LCM role. I was so hardly there was 2 or 3 actuaries I could find on LinkedIn. So
Look,
is the
there are
market
many
not
people
aware?
who work on in these areas. Probably, they would not have looked for LinkedIn and so on. And of course, many of these experienced actuaries resumes are not so updated. So that could be
Okay.
one reason that your reach was not sufficient enough. Easiest is reach out to Binita, right? I reach out to Binita
Yeah.
almost every 15 or 30 days that, do you have these kind of skills? So people
True.
who have special skills, who are open to work, reach out to, and Vinita, you can just pass it on that, what's the right way to reach out to the institute. I know I don't want your email ID to be clogged, but share the right way for these people and they will reach out. I see other
Great.
question from Siddharth Sinarkar. The question is that in a broader sense, an actuary's role is to assess and predict risk, which the insurance industry leverages to design policies. Given this skill set, can actuaries apply their expertise to any domain where the risk is involved and to be effectively utilized? The answer is big yes. We talked about some of the industries today. In the subsequent session, we are going to pick other industries. But as I said, first think of your core interest area and try to dream about it, then apply the actual skills there, come up with the solution, and trust me, you will make huge money. Bring a solution to the market and you will not even need a job. You will earn that much of money. So the answer is yes. Ajay or Nistha, if you want to add anything.
Yeah. In this case, like Prabhakar rightly pointed out, risk is often a byproduct of return, right? Like there is a risk because you're searching for a return. End of the day. And in the quest of risk management, you should not forget the primary objective, which is actually making money. So view of it from that context. And in terms of opportunities for managing risk, like there is risk in literally every field. Like you forget even market credit liquidity. Right? You just take operational risk. Every company in the world is subject to operational risk. So how do you quantify a provisioning or a capital requirement to handle this operational risk? Right? There's going to be cyber attacks. There is going to be plant shutdowns. There is going to be fires in the factory. There's going to be infrastructure breakdown, key personnel leaving the company. And this is one example where the risk just doesn't limit itself to insurance or banking, but transcends into a multidisciplinary industry. Um, Liquidity is another area. Most companies do bad because they have bad products, but they go bankrupt because of liquidity. If they don't have liquidity, they're done for. So, are companies managing liquidity sufficiently to be able to survive? Um, I mean, like Prabhakar said again, and it's you'd have to come up with ways how you can leverage on the actuarial skills in areas that have sometimes not even been explored into. And if you are a pioneer in that area, the amount of money they're going to make is going to be quite massive. So your skills are going to be in demand.
Yeah. So Soundarya, we have noticed your hand, but there was one question earlier, and Ajay, this question is for you especially. As a professional banker in retail banking, what would be the expectation from me as an actuary in order to excel in investment banking, given there is no MBA qualification right now to boost my credential?
If you're specifically targeted investment banking, right? Again, you have to classify what area of investment banking do you want to get into. And I would say there are already a lot of actuaries working in investment banking who are doing active roles in hedge funds, venture capital, private equity, and get in touch at an early stage, connect with these actuaries, and take it forward. Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to add, there are few qualified actuaries who are in this investment area. That there are many actuaries who started taking papers, left it in midway, and are in the investment banking. So don't only look for the people who are fully qualified. There are people who have taken relative exams, which is useful in investment banking, but they are not continuing with the exams. But of course, there is a linkage as Ajay was sharing there. Soundarya, if you can share your question. You are on mute. It seems Soundarya is having challenge in unmuting. So
So one point I'd like to add, and I think Nistha and Prabhakar can add on top of that. The key is networking, right? Being part of specific events related to your industry, meeting people, connecting with people, meeting actuaries. Because when you talk about the GCA or other events which
Actuaries
the
Day.
IIA organizes, the Actuaries Day, it's very easy to discard them as, oh, why should I take half a day off and go attend these events? Or like, why should I spend 3 hours of my time listening to somebody? But at the end of the day, it's not what they speak in the event that is important. It's what you speak to them off the event. Separately go connect with them, have a chat with them, explain your case, and maybe if you speak to 10 people, there will be one or two who will be able to help you out, and it's kind of critical there.
Sir, now I'm able to mute my mic,
yeah,
so can I ask my
we
question?
can hear. Yes, please.
Oh, yes, I am Soundarya from Triple I Institute, so I have completed my fellowship. So I just wanted to know that I'm actually working in Bajaj Allianz as well. So there are certain teams in actuaries like reserving and health insurance pricing, then non-motor pricing. So if we read actuarial subjects, so which will be the best line to go for? And the second question would be, in case if people are not that good in mathematics, then is it a good option to choose actuaries?
Maybe I will go
Second question is
first,
clear
and then
now.
I
Can
will ask.
can
Yeah,
I answer this
yeah.
question?
Please, Nishtha, please go ahead. Yeah.
Uh, so, like you are a fellow from Insurance Institute of India, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So even in the Insurance Institute of India, you have one of the course as I don't remember, maybe IC 82 or something, where you have Foundation of Actuarial Science.
Yes, we have it.
So did you clear that subject?
Yes, ma'am, I've cleared it, but I faced very much difficulties in clearing that paper, honestly, if I have to tell you.
Okay, so that's similar to that because whatever content that you are having in that, it is similar,
Huh.
more extensive content that you would be reading in your IAI content of actuarial science. So, being an actuarial, you cannot fear from maths. That's one thing that I feel. That matlab, the more you fear, the more it will keep you will be adding on. Matlab, you will be more fearing. It is said na, जितना डरोगे उतना वो subject और डराएगा. So that is something. So it is not something very, very huge or something that you cannot do. Everybody can do everything. I believe in that. So you can opt for that career. That's not an issue. Of course, it could be that I might be taking just 1 hour for that. You might be taking 2 hours to complete that or to study that. That's the only thing. However, you can clear the subjects and also triple I and IAI. They would be having some exemptions also. You can check upon their website. For some of the papers, you can apply for the exemption.
So just to
Okay,
add to
ma'am.
Nishita's
And
point,
one
just
more
so you know,
question was regarding the department of choosing. Like we have reserving, and then the other one is we have non-motor actuarials pricing and health pricing as well. So I need your suggestions on it.
It depends on what papers that you clear. So you can, if you clear the CM1 paper, and since the foundation of actuarial IC 82, IC 92 also talks about that. So you may enter into pricing as well as reserving part also. I think the difficulty part maybe can be addressed by Prabhakar or Ajay.
I think what you suggested in terms of the exams, if you just want to look at your own, or maybe how I look this question as that, among the South Indian, Chinese, and say Italian food, which one should I choose? Because I want to eat, and it depends upon your choice. How to find which areas is very very near to your natural inclination towards looking a particular subject. Okay, if you can relate multiple factors, you are going in a market or you're simply sitting in a car, and if you're seeing something outside window, and every time you are trying to relate something to other, general insurance is one area for you. Okay, if you are very much attracted towards the the marketing piece of it, the very very advanced fast paced changing the aspects, and then maybe how different say technologies are coming in the health area, because in health you will have to definitely look at different cause different disease. So if you are more interested in that, marketing comes little natural to you, then health is will where you will I have seen people doing better. But if you have where if you're quiet, you look at your particular, you are not get bored looking at a chart even for 13 minutes, 50 minutes, or 1 hour, because life is one area where you will have to focus heavily on the investment return, asset management part of it. Of course there is a the cash flows and the morbidity is there, but those are the areas which are well taken care by the models. But to analyze or to identify a pattern there is more difficult compared to the other two areas. So if you are more focused in identifying, and maybe if you're more patient looking and sitting at a graph for longer, go for your life. So that is how I have seen people doing better.
yeah, but just to add that one point, you need math, right? If you are not historically good in math, you better be. Because when I was in school, I used to do terrible in math, but I had to cope up when I started actuarial, and eventually I topped CT1 as well. But the old financial mathematics. So I was not good in maths, but I had to cope up to be able to be competent enough to pass the subject. So there is absolutely no excuse for not, it's something that you have to do. It's necessity for clearing the actual papers.
Very true. There's one more hand. I
Uh,
don't know, Vanita, you will have to tell when to
Thank you,
close.
sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soundarya.
Let's just
Can
move
we,
two to three
can,
questions and then we'll
okay,
close the call.
sure. Anirudh, you can go next.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was I was wondering about roles of actuarial science and if we can transition into the field of quantitative finance. So things Citadel, James, those algorithmic trading ones. I asked because I am very inclined towards the quantitative side of things. Like in the actuarial syllabus, my favorite exams were CS2 and CM2. And I believe that the quantitative trading side of things, it probably takes those subjects and just like probably takes them up a few levels. But I'm really inclined towards that side of work, that side of sort of studies. And I was just wondering if you'd have any insight on whether actuaries can transition into those roles, if those roles look for
Actuaries have
actuaries.
already transitioned into those roles. Just to add to your point, I know at least 5 people working as traders in quantitative finance, both in India as well as the US. In the US, it's kind of a straight recruitment thingy. So, but one thing I do recommend is like you're dealing with very like the area of quantitative finance itself. Like you don't really have MBAs being recruited. Like you have people from very technical fields, um, top-notch PhDs from Harvard, Columbia, UCAL, and or New York. Like companies prefer the best of the best to be in the field making decisions on algorithmic trading. Um, and I would say that in terms of directly getting recruited, your best bet is to get in touch with an actuary who's already working there. Because if you try to push your resume through the traditional channel, it's not kind of going to work unless you know somebody who's kind of already doing this, who's aware of what the actuarial course is about. The second bit of it is I would urge you to not even apply to some of the quant trading roles till you finish ST6, because that's sort of SP6 right now. Sorry. So that's kind of the foundation. I know like some people say CM, is it CM1 or CM2? What is CT8 right now?
CM2. Yeah.
CM2, yeah. So CM2, people think it's tough, but it's actually not. ST6 forms the basis of a very clear understanding of quantitative finance. So as soon as you finish ST6, start reaching out to actuaries in the field, which Vinita can help you connect. Start pushing your resume, and you will be in a good position because you have the understanding of what you need to do in the industry. Like, do not even try applying for a role without ST6.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Hardik, you can go next.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So, just to add to the previous question, so what challenge I face is being getting an entry to to that domain. For example, you mentioned actuaries can work in the banking domain. So, what challenge I feel is how to approach to that field. How can I push my CV, because there are no openings particularly for actuaries in the banking. So that is one challenge I face in the entry to domain in that field. So how can we reach to that? What's the solution?
Of course, from the banking side of it, Ajay will give you more insight. But as if you just um, take my advice, do some of the projects, not necessarily in the whole, means, depending upon what university asks to do. Think of a area or a problem area, and there are plenty. If you just put a question that, challenges faced by ABC energy, ABC industry, or ABC functional functions in a bank or in a insurance company, Google will throw you at least 10 of them. Find one problem, think of how probably you can solve it, reach out to a person, and as I suggested that Vinita can help you, tell that, this is the approach that I have taken. Do you have any advice? That ways you can tell that, I'm not waiting for you to give me an opportunity. I have created an opportunity for myself. I just need your push. We struggle a lot in terms of every day we get multiple resumes which almost look similar except the name. And in many of the cases, even the names are same. And trust me, I don't take even more than 5 or 7 seconds to say yes or no to those things? How will I get to know that you really have some proactiveness? And you will find in every resumes, I am proactive, I am solution thinker, but no evidences on those that two sheet of paper that you are really a proactive or a solution thinker. Give us those insights. Trust me, we will run after you. We really lack people who have those skills. Ajay, you want to add because
Yeah, and
this
the
question
key
was from the
is
banking.
yeah, the key is networking because when it comes to banking, you are selling your certificate to some extent, but what you're primarily doing is selling your skill set. You are trying to tell the bank that you have all the skill sets that is necessary to perform the role that is being given to you, whatever the role may be. And are some of the recruiters in bank aware of actuarial? Because like if you think of it, the first level of filtering happens at the HR stage, right? And if you talk to an HR, they will immediately go one dimensional and think about maybe MBA or institute A, B, or C. And how do you convince people that like these guys don't even know what actuarial is? Like you're not talking to a technical audience, you're talking to a completely non-technical initial filter. So once you get past that and once you reach the technical stage is where you can immediately start showcasing your ability. But to get past that, to beat the first stage, the key is networking, right? You need people, you need to be in touch with people in the field that you're trying to work in. They should be aware of what you're doing, aware of what your skill set is, and they should be the ones pushing it from the inside. If you're just applying through some of these job portals, that's like, it's never going to happen because it's most likely an AI that is filtering your resume. And then there is lack of intelligence from the HR, which is filtering your resume. So yeah, just on a practical scale, just take care of this point.
Yep. And just to add here, anyone who has used R and have participated in any hackathon and they have won the prize, or if you have any solution that you have created, share that with Vinita. Probably you may end up having a job with us within the next 7 days, but it should be a good one. And I just need to see an application.
All
Sure,
right.
that helps.
So we'll wrap up. If anybody has any more questions, they can mail us directly. Okay. Oh, yeah. I think Aditya Ray wants to say something.
Go
All
ahead,
right.
Aditya.
Pratyusha.
I think there is a, yeah. So this is the last one we will take, and then we will keep other questions for the next sessions. This Saturday session is going to continue. Maybe the speakers may change, but that is one initiative that we are taking at the institute. Uh, Please, if today you don't get a chance to ask your questions, but if you have, either pass it on to Benita or keep it for the next session. Pratyusha.
Please go ahead, Pratyusha.
You're on mic, mute, sorry.
All right.
Right.
So as we have came, as we have come to the end of the Saturday Summit, Breaking Boundaries, I would thank you all to the speakers and everyone who joined today. It was really a very insightful session, and I hope everyone has been now known to more domains of actual science. So thank you so much for joining us today. Until then, stay tuned for the next Saturday Summit, which will be more focused on startups. All right.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you all.
Thank you, Vinita.
Everyone.
Thank you, Riddhi.
Bye.
Thank you, Ajay and Prabhakar. Bye bye.